No, it's not to that detail. Like if there's critical things that could make or break a job, that's going to be in an SOP generally. But the little detail like that, what we try to create is a culture of, our core values are we're a high performance team that gets her done and has fun. And in that high performance, it's like holding each other accountable, like up and down. There's no like boss down accountability. It's like anybody can call anybody out kind of thing, and cheerfully holding each other accountable, but then also doing the right thing the right way.
Hello and welcome to The Movable, a podcast dedicated to interviewing individuals involved in building manufacturing. I'm your host, Jarrett Dory. Please enjoy. Thank you for being willing to record this podcast. So, could you start by just talking about your kind of journey to where you are now with the business that you're operating and how it all kind of happened?
Yeah, for sure. So I started Farrow Built in 2017. Previous to that, I actually started a business in Calgary framing, but that only lasted about 6 or 8 months. I was business partner with someone there, and we didn't know how to get work and everything. We just knew how to kind of do the work. But then started again with Farrow Built in 2017. We started in Vancouver, BC, and ended up moving up here to the Okanagan area in the interior of BC. And at first we just started like a lot of businesses start, right, where you're kind of just do whatever work comes in the door and you do it. And the last few years we've actually specialized into just building shops, barns, and garages. So that's our focus now. And we pretty much won't take anything else.
So you found that's where what you do best, evidently.
Yeah, it is now for sure. There was a few, I used to do it a lot when I worked in the prairies, but there was a few hiccups like getting it going here. But now that we're just doing only shops, barns, and garages, it's so easy to train for and that sort of thing. Like we have a guy running a crew that started about not even a year and a half ago as a laborer, and he's running a crew for us now building these buildings because
Wow.
it's so easy to train when you just do the same thing in, day out.
Yeah. So that's really common. It's like everyone I talk to, you said you started Farrow Built in 2017?
Yeah.
Yeah. So our business is a similar age, and there seems to be like different people that I know that kind of started a business around the same time, and it's really common. Like everyone says that you kind of want to be everything to everyone. I mean, that's even in books, and then you realize that you can't do that because you just won't be good at everything. Um, so something that when I was on your website that I really, really liked, I think it was on your website, you offer like a three years of spring annual inspection or something to that nature. And I immediately took that and I sent it to our marketing gal because I was like, should we be considering something like this? Like this is a really good idea. You got through the winter and then you're kind of getting the businesses providing this service. Can you tell me a little bit how you came up with that idea and what kind of drove you to do that?
Yeah, well, there's a couple different things. So we're doing lifetime warranty now. It used to be 10-year warranty, but we've switched it to lifetime. And so doing the 3 years of inspections after the building's built makes sure that, there's not some little problem we've found that like if there is a little problem or like say a screw got missed or something got not quite done right or there was a problem, it usually comes up in the first few years. But then if you aren't doing those inspections, it gets missed. So then you could have bigger problems down the road. So by doing those inspections, it means we can be 100% confident in our lifetime warranty. The other thing it does on the like marketing side of it is it gets us in front of those people again and reminds them who we are. and we can ask for referrals and that sort of thing during that inspection as well.
Yeah, interesting. Um, that seems like a big undertaking to like, do you have to be careful on how, like when you say lifetime warranty, do you have to have quite a bit of terms and conditions attached to that? Or how do you feel comfortable, I guess, offering that on like, I assume this is on all your buildings, it's available, or it is something you do on all your buildings?
Yeah, it is on all the buildings as long as they've paid us. And it's lifetime workmanship warranty, I guess I should say. So like, if a window starts leaking 40 years from now or something, that's not to do with the workmanship. But if the roof is leaking or something like that, it would be, or if like soffit blows out or the posts rot or something, that would be because of poor workmanship. So we're building a really quality building, so we're confident it's going to last a lifetime. And the other thing with the lifetime warranty too is like if they do sell or whatever, then we'll have a way, if we haven't had ran into it yet, but when we do, we'll have a way that they could transfer it to the new owner, but it's not going to just automatically go to the new owner. So it would be a little bit of a process there just to make sure like the new owner understands what it is too, instead of just thinking it's like, do whatever you want to the building and it gets fixed.
Right, right. That's interesting. We don't do a lifetime warranty. Like we build steel portable structures, like really probably it sounds the same as what you do, but it's really not. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and one thing with them being portable, like you can move them around with a tractor or whatever. Um, we developed like probably we're more productized and manufacturing than like you're more like on-site construction.
Yeah.
So we'll have like very like $5,000 products, whereas you're probably not building a shop that's $5,000. But um, we'll have people like send an email and be like, hey, look, this happened, and there's like pictures and whatever. And so we would just go and fix things kind of without saying anything
Yeah.
or asking more questions. And then we sent, and usually it was like our fault because we, didn't train someone properly or whatever. But
Yeah.
we had an instance where I forget something broke and our crew went out to fix it. And this shed that's like on skids was buried in like 3 feet of mud. And then it froze. And they
Yeah.
like took an excavator and tried to yank it out without like digging the mud out. And so we're like, okay, we need like some controls because people just take advantage. They just submit warranty claims left, right, and center. And
Yeah.
it's not like we don't get that many warranty claims, but so we have like a portal on the website now where you have to like you have a checklist of things you have to submit for us to
Mm-hmm.
do warranty. And we recently had someone send like these really odd pictures, and they're like, yeah, the thing fell apart, and we're like, geez, like that's possible. Like there are events that could happen. And so we're like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, that's really too bad. Send an email. Here's a link to our warranty. Please send it in, with all the, and it gives like very basic instructions, but thorough instructions on like what pictures to send. And they just didn't respond. And they have like multiple of our buildings. It was like really weird. Um,
Huh.
and so it's just funny. You're offering a lifetime warranty, but something we struggle a little bit is quality, and that's my fault. I appreciate quality, but we grew at a pace and where it started to go into the back burner, the quality aspect,
Mm-hmm.
and I struggled with confidence in hiring I guess at least one person that had the expertise, you could say, or just an eye for quality that could enforce it and build a culture around quality. So now we're kind of backpedaling, and like I don't think our quality, it's not like every building has issues, but there's like a mentality in our shop that they just kind of find whatever, make it work. And that worked 6 years ago, but now it's not really great. So I'm curious how did you kind of have to, did you use repetition to your people to like every day, you talk like quality over quantity, quality over, like, how do you enforce quality?
Yeah, it's a great question. There's a couple things. One of the biggest things is like we always say we're building a premium product. So that's just every time there's a decision to make, do we do this or this? Well, which one supports a premium product? And only one of the decisions does. So that's one of the things we've done. And then another thing is having like standard operating procedures and standard way we do everything so that one guy's not doing it the way he likes to do it and another guy's doing it the way he likes to do it. It's all done the same way every time. So that's kind of the two major things.
Okay. So do you like the first one that really makes sense? You're like discussion comes up, choose the path that is going to be the best for quality. So you probably involve other people in that. When it comes to standardizing a construction procedure or whatever, um, how do you enforce that? How do people know that that is the standard? Is there like an on-site training that happens so that until you let go and do your own, and there's kind of a checklist of how you do each component, like something written down? Or how do you make sure that each and every time that same pattern is followed?
Yeah, so all our SOPs are stored in Google Drive, and then the leads of the crews can look at them. But the biggest thing we found for anyone in the company to make sure they're following an SOP is to give them ownership of the SOP. So like the leaders of the crew can manage the SOP. So they can go in and like, hey, it's, we're not doing this step anymore. We'll take that out and we'll add what we're actually doing. And then we're recording a lot of them on video as well. So like Luke, who leads the Outlaw crew, he has been the biggest part of making all those on-site SOPs and then updating them. And then Jake, who leads the Wrangler crew, he told me he's going in there the day before they do something, like say they're going to fly the roof up. He'll go in the day before and review the SOP for that, just to refresh his mind on everything and make sure that the day that they're doing it, he's remembers exactly what to do. So that's kind of, it's not, I don't think you can force people to use SOPs, but if you give them the ownership of them, there's more chance that they're going to be like, well, this is my SOP. I want it to be right, kind of thing.
Yeah, that's interesting. That ownership of, specific, well, SOPs, if that's what the I think we lack that within our shop. Like, yeah, there's leaders in certain things, but I think like the procedure isn't written down. The SOP isn't written down um, to that detail. So that's interesting. Did did you have to push for people to be into the SOPs, standard operating procedures? Like, did you have to um, convince people that it was a good thing to do, or is it something that you started with? Or like, obviously, you have some people that like are on board with doing it. Was there kind of a selling point on that, or is it always how it's been?
No, it depends on the people. Like we had some people that weren't the right people and had to move them on, and they weren't on board with it at all. Like they would almost be against it. So that's pretty frustrating to work with. The other thing that we do though that makes people really like it is whenever there's a problem, we don't blame the person, we blame the process. So we go, okay, like say in your instance, you get called back because some piece fell apart on the shed when they were trying to drag it. Well, you don't go, well, so and so welded that, so it's his fault. It's like, okay, did so and so follow the process? Oh, there is no process. Okay, well, that's the problem, is there was no process for doing that. Or if there is a process, it's like, well, they only welded one side of that. Why didn't they do the other side? Well, in the process, it didn't say it had to be done on both sides, or whatever the thing may be. So you always go to the process instead of the person. And then when you do that, people actually like that. So they want to follow the process, because then if there is a problem, it's like, it's not them, it's the process that was wrong.
Yeah, interesting. Um, so something that I've noticed um, in what you're doing is you and I probably know people in construction that they're home builders, they're framers, they're whatever they are. And you ask them what they do, and they swing a hammer, they deal with PVC, they're a plumber, whatever it is. Something about, like, you've put a lot of thought and effort into, like, what the business is in its totality. It's not just based around you swinging a hammer, or whatever term we want to use. Like, you're building SOPs. There seems to be a division between, like, there's people that know trades, and then people that know, like, that want to introduce business and trades and make a business out of it together. I don't know if I'm really explaining that well, but I'm curious on if that's who you are as a person. Like, you're not just like, I build shops and garages. You're building an enterprise or whatever. Like, there's SOPs, there's all these different things. You have values, company values. It's not just Duncan building garages, come and see me and I'll build you a garage. You have warranties, you have statements, you have procedures that you're following. That's kind of a unique type of person, right? You're not just, you're kind of taking the idea of big business and bringing it into your trade. Does that make sense, what I'm getting at? And I'm curious if that's who you are, or if there's some sort of mentorship or books that gets you curious thinking that way, or if it's like inspired by, you want to sell the business at some point and you know that you can't sell yourself as a business and that wouldn't be your desire. Like, what's the motivation behind building beyond just being yourself as a tradesperson, but an actual enterprise that functions? Well, anyway, you get what I'm asking.
Yeah, when are you going to let me answer the question? No. But yeah, no, I get 100% what you're asking, because there's people that, they do the trade for whatever, 40 years, and then once they're done, they shut the business down and that's it, kind of thing. And then they retire and whatever. And what we're doing instead is we're trying to build a business. Well, it says right here on the wall beside me, it says I'm designing my business to run itself. And that's kind of the goal down the road. But to grow a business and build a business, it's not, like you say, it's not about the, that we just happen to do garages and shops and barns. It's not like I'd do it in anything really, and probably will try something else at some point once this one's successful. But to your question of, like, why am I doing that? Like, I didn't used to do that about probably 3 years ago. It was just me hiring a few guys, and we, just working like crazy 5-6 days a week at least. And more recently, a couple years ago, I actually started taking some coaching that was for contractors, and I've done a few different coaching programs, and been continuously in some sort of coaching over the last couple of years. And I read piles of books and listen to podcasts, that sort of thing. But so I'm always trying to learn. Always, when I'm at the gym, when I'm walking, when I'm doing anything, driving, I'm always listening to a book or a podcast. And yeah, I've connected with a lot of other people that are trying to do the same thing.
So, can you tell me more about the coaching? That's kind of an interesting subject.
Yeah. What what are you interested in specifically to do with it?
Did you like hire a business coach or a like was it someone hired or just someone that you knew that you're like, "Oh, this is a good thing to do," and they just kind of provided mentorship, or was this something that you actually like a service you paid for?
Yeah, it was something I've paid for, and I'm still paying for some. Um, I found, see, I was so naive to it all that I didn't even realize there was such a thing as a business coach or whatever. Like I just figured work long enough, you'll figure it out, which maybe you would. In my case, I probably wouldn't, but um, I did. Yeah, actually found a guy on TikTok that I just saw his video, and that was the first coaching I kind of got into. And then from there, I started connecting with other contractors and stuff, and they helped me realize there was other coaching. And yeah, I've been in a few different programs. The one probably that's helped me the most, I don't think I'm staying in it now. Like I might be leaving it right away, but over the last couple of years, I've been in Breakthrough Academy, and it's been really good with helping get those processes and systems and employee agreements and all that stuff. Just the kind of um, the nuts and bolts that need to be in place. It's been really good for that. So that's been the one I've been in the
Interesting.
longest.
It's kind of interesting the coaching thing. Um, I've never done it. I've done forms of it, but I've never like went and paid for a business coach. But it's really interesting because there are probably coaches that do prey on people that don't have a business and are just promising, you're going to never work again type of thing, take my course. But from what I understand is like I just actually read the book The Motive, Patrick, I don't know, how do you say his last name?
Patrick
Leonucci or
Lencioni.
Lencioni. Uh The Motive, and he's not encouraging. I mean, of course he does provide some sort of coaching or something of that nature, but he mentions about like as the CEO, you're coaching the employees, like, but he's essentially saying like everyone needs a coach, and he uses the example
Mm-hmm.
that the best basketball player in the world, the best, you name it, athlete in the world has a coach. Every single one, tennis, whatever it is. And so it's kind of interesting how if you look at highly successful people in business, they have coaches, most of them. I I don't know if all of them do, but I know lots that do, and it's kind of fascinating because there's part of you that's like, oh, this is a scam, like you know everything. But I think also, um, even if they're not providing like technical business operations expertise, maybe things that you could get from like what the traction book or something like that gives you like an operating procedure for your business. There's something I think, and maybe you can comment on this, but so there's the coaching aspect. So there's bad coaches, those exist, but good coaches will help you in like developing your business and the operations of it. Um, but that I think there's also um, a benefit, and maybe you can answer this, of just having conversations, like externalizing your thoughts essentially with a third party that's like out. Um, and I use friends and acquaintances to do that. And it's probably not fair to them, but I also often come to some really good conclusions just by getting the thoughts out and sharing them and talking it through with someone. So is that also something you've experienced of having a business coach? Is that part of it? Like they're going to help you with some operating procedures, but also just working through your own, like the answer, but you just got to get it out and talk it through with someone.
Yeah, there's a few good things about it. That's one of them is that a really good coach, they'll just ask a lot of questions, and then you basically end up telling them what you actually need to do because they just ask you the right questions.
Yeah.
And then the other side of it is once you figure out what you need to do, they'll hold you accountable to it as well. And it's someone that if you're, talking to them every 2 weeks, say, and you said, okay, I'll get that done before, our next meeting. And then 2 days before, you're like, oh crap, I still don't have that done. You're going to get it done because you don't want to feel like an idiot when you get on the call with them.
Right. Right. Yeah. Interesting. So there's an accountability there.
Yeah. And then I think being a part of communities is a big thing. Like, that's probably been one of the biggest things with Breakthrough Academy itself, but a couple other ones I've been in is the community that's part of it, and talking to other people in similar situation or similar industries or that sort of thing, and being able to kind of put your heads together is definitely helpful. I think the reason I'm moving on from the Breakthrough Academy one is to try and get into a group with higher level people that aren't just, they're focused on contractors and stuff, but now I want to get into something with more business owners that are higher level, and just, you surround yourself with that type of people, then you're going to start going that way yourself easier.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting. That's really really fascinating. Um, can you quantify what you think the effect on your business has been? Like, did you 10x sales, or did you increase the bottom line, or some other, your life got easier? Is there some sort of kind of quantifiable, um, like before and after the coaching?
Yeah, I guess, I mean, some of the things that are easily quantifiable is I've got, I am more effective, I guess you would say. So like, I get more important things done, focused on more important things. There's been a lot of like, it hasn't just been, I would say maybe for some people it is, for me, it hasn't just been like a straight line to like, you hire a coach and then everything's just great and glorious from there on out. Definitely gone through some struggles and stuff in different ways, but the biggest thing it's done is it's got me on the path to like learning more and learning how to fix problems instead of just continually beating your head against the wall with the same problem over and over. It's like we're fixing problems, and like you actually have a path forward instead of just wondering what's happening tomorrow kind of thing.
Right. Right.
So that's not
Yeah.
really
Interesting.
quantifiable stuff necessarily, maybe. It's, I guess
Well,
one
no,
thing
it
that it
is
has done
because
is
you're,
I'm not swinging a hammer anymore, like, except for the odd
that was part of the
Saturday
coaching.
if I feel like it. Yeah, I went from being entirely working with the crew basically every single day to not working with them at all.
So do you ever go on site?
I go once a week for sure to film content. I don't know if you've seen our Instagram and Facebook and stuff, but we do a lot of content on there. And then I also, like, if we're in a crunch and we have to get something done on a Saturday, sometimes I'll work with them on a Saturday just for the fun of it.
That's really, now you've got my wheel turning. I'm like, oh, maybe I need to get more serious about some sort of coaching. It kind of aligns with what I just read, that Patrick book, The Motive or whatever. Um, so I liked what you were talking about, QC, having those procedures. Um, that's definitely a struggle of ours right now. We're trying to increase the consistency of our product and the quality of it. So I appreciate that. There was a question that I had and it's left me, but I'm curious from a design standpoint, on your actual builds. Do do customers come with like how is the sales process and then the design process and then the build, like, are you doing all of that, or is the design farmed out, or how does that work?
Yeah, the design is through that. I don't know if you saw it on our website, the build and price tool. So we have the more robust version of it in the back end here, but we basically use that. And so we design the building with them during an on-site consultation. And once we've designed the building, that spits out, that gives us our price live while we're doing it up in the top. And then it, also spits out the plans, architectural plans, all the material lists and everything too. And then we have to send those architectural plans off to an engineer to have them engineered and then apply for permit. So the actual design of it's really, on most buildings that are pretty straightforward, it takes almost no time to design them.
So as far as like sourcing materials, do you work through like a specific vendor that puts all the packages together for you to assemble on site, or how does that work?
Yeah, we work with a really good home hardware here that's like got their stuff really dialed in. So that's where most of our material comes from. And then we have a metal supplier for our rolled metal for the walls and the roof.
Okay. So going back to, I kind of skipped over, I talked about design, the sales process. Are all your incoming leads like through your own marketing, or is it through like home hardware, or like how are you generating the most, where are you generating customers?
Yeah, we do quite a bit of stuff for marketing. So obviously we get a bit from organic, like from our social media and Google with the website and whatnot. But then we also do paid Google ads, paid Facebook and Instagram ads. And we've been sending out mailers as well. And we've had a couple leads from those. Nothing crazy yet, but we're planning to send a lot more. And then we get a few referrals here and there, of course, and that sort of thing. But yeah, I would say most of our leads do come from the social media side or paid ads.
Okay. And like, you do you how do you have kind of a what would it turn, a qualifying process or something, to figure out if someone's a customer or not?
Yeah, like we'll set up a discovery call when a lead comes in. So that's going to be me talking to whoever it is, whatever form they came in. So there's three ways we can do that. They can come into the office if they're local, or we can go on like a Google Meet call, or we can do a phone call. Most of them are on phone calls, and in that I'll ask a bunch of questions. And this is the sales process I use is one I learned from some of the early coaching I was in, and I still train and role play with it today. But so that in that call, I'll basically ask a lot of questions, trying to understand the motive, the motion, like what's making them, what's driving their decision, what makes them want it. And by the end of that call, have shared some ballpark price ranges with them, rough pricing. And from that point, then it's kind of up to them. If the pricing sounds like something they can work with, and if I've connected with them enough and they trust us, then we can move ahead to that on-site consultation, which is typically, depending on where it is, anywhere between $500 to $5,000 for us to come for that on-site consultation. And that's where we'd move ahead with putting together a firm number with the design tool and a proposal and go ahead with the deposit to get things rolling.
So you see a lot of companies like all over their advertising, like free estimates. So you don't do free estimates.
Yeah, and the discovery call will give you a free estimate of how much it
Okay.
could be, but it's an estimate. We give a rough number on that discovery call, so it's it might tell you you could be between $150 to $100,000. And if they say that they're hoping to spend 50,000, then we probably aren't going to be able to help them with what they want. But if
Sure.
they are
Yeah.
in
So
that
you get
range,
it.
then we
You
move
get
ahead.
an idea. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so in going back to the quality thing, in like lean manufacturing or lean whatever, there's kind of this practice, you're maybe familiar with it, of like every technician that's working on whatever it is, they are invested in the quality, so they're kind of doing their own quality as they go. Um, Not that you don't have quality people to check on things, but um, you're talking about using SOPs for every little detail. I'm assuming you're not writing out every little detail, and obviously like you have an SOP for the basics of the structure and how it should be done. Is there some sort of culture or mentality just with maybe it can be taken care of by SOPs, but in just like every small little action that someone in the field does, whether driving a nail, whatever it um, is that just a level of training, or like how do you instill in people that every little step, makes a difference and you're doing it really, really well? Or is that taken care of by the SOPs into that detail?
No, it's not to that detail. Like if there's critical things that could like, make or break a job, that's going to be in an SOP generally. But the little detail like that, what we try to create is a culture of, our core values are we're a high performance team that gets her done and has fun. And in that high performance, it's like holding each other accountable, like up and down. There's no like boss down accountability. It's like anybody can call anybody out kind of thing, and cheerfully holding each other accountable. But then also doing the right thing the right way is part of that. And it's like we talked about earlier, like, this is a premium product kind of mentality. And people that aren't, the biggest thing, and we're still working on that a bit, is with people that aren't that way, or they're slipping in one of the core values or with the culture, is just to continually be on their case about it. And then there's two options: they can get better, or they like self-eliminate, basically.
Right. So, well, that kind of is a nice segue into recruitment. How do you recruit people? Have you found like uh, what works for you on recruiting and then retaining employees?
Yeah, we've been working on that a lot over the last couple of years. Made a lot of mistakes with that. But we have got it. I feel like we've got it. It's the best it's ever been right now. And a big part of it is the interview process. You got to have the people to interview, but then actually interviewing properly and not just hiring warm bodies definitely helps a lot. And we've been trying to do proper interviews for the last couple of years, but I would say only in the last 6 months we've really started to dial it in. So as far as like field level people, when we interview them, we'll actually usually schedule multiple interviews at the same time. So we'll say we'll have 4 guys come in at the same time, and then we'll have a few of us in here, Luke and Jake both in here, and myself, and we'll all interview each guy. So they'll just come into each office. We'll all be interviewing a guy at the same time, and then they'll switch around until we've interviewed every single guy, and we'll send them all on their way. And then we all compare notes and basically, argue for or against who we think should or shouldn't be hired. And once we're all in agreement on who should be hired, then that same day we'll let them know. We'll send job offers to the ones that we're hiring, and we won't to the ones that we aren't. So that's our latest process, and I think it's like very critical to interview for your core values and your culture and make sure that they're going to fit that way, because the skill can be trained, and sometimes it's easier to train an unskilled person than
Right.
retrain a supposedly skilled person.
Yes. Yeah. No, I understand that. So, um, do you advertise for people? You try to encourage your current employees to refer, or what's have you found to get how your current employees, how have they been recruited? I guess I'm curious. What median was used?
Pretty much all the current employees right now have been recruited through paid Instagram, Facebook ads for hiring. Like we have ads
Really?
usually running. Yeah. Usually works better than Indeed. We found we're trying Indeed a little bit again now, so we'll see how that works. But there's only one guy here that has been hired through Indeed, and that was a year and a half ago or so. But since then, we've just used Instagram, Facebook ads. And then when they click on that, it sends them to our website, to the career or whatever, join our team page. And then from there, once they've read through the job descriptions and all this, it makes it sound good and whatever. Then they click on apply now, and it actually goes to a thing called hireflix.com. And on that website, you can set up a bunch of questions, and they have to answer it with the video so that the camera's videoing them answering the questions. And so then, like some people, you'll just watch the video and automatically screen them out for some reason. Most of the time, we're saying if they took the videos, then we'll bring them in for an interview unless there's something like really obvious. But then you also have that to compare when we are going over our notes, like, oh yeah, remember he said whatever in the video interview, and now that makes sense, and that's why he wouldn't be a good fit here, or he would be a good fit, or whatever. But it's that those video interviews are great because it just screens out all the people that are applying at every single job.
What was the name of that website that you said the link goes to and does
Hireflix.
those?
Yeah, it's HIREFLIX.com.
FLIX?
Yeah, that's right.
Interesting. I'd never heard of that. So, speaking of that, talk about another pain point that we have. It's always nice to try to draw out as much information from someone else that's maybe experienced something beforehand. We use, and I don't know if QuickBooks Online is as popular in Canada, but we have a fractional bookkeeping accounting service. So they provide to many businesses, and it's all done remotely. It works amazing for all of our bookkeeping and payroll, but they're not really specialized in HR. But our QuickBooks Online payroll has like an HR function. And I'm going to see if they can do a little bit more. We're not hiring that often, but like onboarding processes and these different things, they don't provide that. And we don't really have it. We don't really have an HR department. And of course, there's places that, different services that kind of have that, or you can hire, either a full-time person or fractional or whatever, HR professional. I'm curious if you're using a service or how you deal with HR.
Yeah, we take care of it all in-house. We have like you, where we have a bookkeeping firm that does all our payroll and all that sort of thing. And but otherwise, we take care of it in-house, and the lady that was running that stuff is quitting next week, is her last week, so she has created all the SOPs and all the everything for that though. So we'll just follow those SOPs on board as per normal, and should be no hiccups even though she's leaving. And when we do bring someone on that can look after that part of it again, then it's all created and we just hand it to them and say, here, follow what the SOP says, and here's all the documents you need.
So another question for you. Have you ever used like CFO services if you're making a big financial decision, or someone in that realm anyway, like to help with maybe a purchase or something that's just or better cash flow or whatever it might be? Do you have any assistance in that realm?
Not specifically. I mean, a lot of the coaching stuff, there's a lot about that's been helpful, but I wouldn't say no, not a CFO or someone like that. No.
Right.
I guess I should say the owner of the bookkeeping firm that we use basically like gives us her time for free. So I do get on calls with her and get some advice from her here and there with what should happen. And we're planning to do those more regularly, actually, because that still is one of the things we're working on, is like cash flow and how to properly manage it.
Mm-hmm. It's kind of interesting running a business. I mean, you can boil it down to like a product or service that you're supplying to people, but there are so many moving parts. It's really incredible. I know I've been kind of always drawn to business ownership, and you you look at it and you're like, oh, that is just, you just kind of give everyone a pep talk and then everything just happens. And probably don't, small business owners probably don't really realize the amount of things that they know. There's just so many moving parts. So I didn't know about, to be honest.
I think most people don't know the amount of things they don't know.
Well, that's we use that phrase a lot. There's a our like operations director. She always says, "You don't know what you don't know," and it's true, which is kind of a good saying when you are learning something. You're like, "Oh, I wished I had known this." It's like, well, don't beat yourself up. You didn't know, and until you have
Now you
something to
do.
reveal it, you don't know.
Yeah.
So, something that I'm curious about, um, some people I talk to, uh, you know, family, friends, or, work in big business or government or whatever. They're not really surrounded by business ownership necessarily. Um, but yet they have like this strong desire to be self-employed or own a business. And I know for myself, I've always been like, I don't like overthink things like, oh, that would be, I hear a lot of people like, I'd go into business, but they like start thinking about all these reasons. Like, I don't have that. I'm just like, that's what I'm doing. Like, it's not, and maybe that's background, I'm not sure. It's not like a big barrier to entry. I'm curious, if like what was it like for you to go into business? It was like, oh, this is what I'm doing. This is cool. Or was it kind of a big deal? Or like, did you have some sort of environmental, like, you think that helped or hindered?
I mean, I think I probably could have put a lot more thought into it. Knowing what I know now, I would. But no, I was just like, oh, start a business. And oh, there's a guy in Kijiji that needs some floors done in Vancouver. Let's go do it. And that's that literally how we started. We had one job to do. And we're like, hey, let's start a business and go do this one job and we'll just find other work. And so far, yeah, we always have.
Yeah. So you're fairly uninhibited too. It wasn't like this big thing that you thought about, which I think is a little bit of a superpower. Honestly, I think it can be very beneficial.
Yeah.
Because taking action, it's easier if you can take action to get things done, and so you learn faster. You really do because you just get thrown into the fire.
hmm Yeah. And in the time that you or I are making, 50 poor decisions, they're still thinking about the decision. And we've learned, you make that many decisions wrong, you learn a lot more stuff and how to make the right decision way quicker than someone that's sitting there trying to analyze everything.
Right. Right. Uh, I I'm super impressed with with your product, like with well just how you present the business. I think again going back to that point, like it's one thing to be a tradesperson, but then to like want to develop something beyond, I think is a whole nother skill in itself. It's such a benefit to have the trades background. Um, but it's a trade in itself to, have a, a, a business that like is more than you. So it's really kind of neat to see, which I mean, there's, I guess I kind of already harped on this, but I'm curious, like on whenever you saw that fellow on TikTok with the coaching, and maybe I've kind of forgotten what you've said, but were you driven by like you wanted to scale your business, or it was just like the pain of not? I guess you did say it was like the pain of being in it maybe every day. Um, can you kind of revisit that and talk about like the motivation a little bit more of like going from you're just in there going job to job versus building out a structure and procedures. Uh, can you talk a little bit more about the motivation of that?
Yeah. I mean, the biggest motivation at the time was I felt like we were repeating the year over and over and over and not getting anywhere and always saying, oh, in the next job or the next year it'll be good kind of thing. And it was like it wasn't because I mean, from what I know now, when you repeat the same actions over and over, you can't expect different results. And so the for me at that time, it was just like I'm sick of like just working like absolutely crazy and basically it's not doing anything for us. Like I might as well go back and work a job somewhere because this is way harder work and we're getting nowhere with it. So that's kind of where I was at that point. It was basically a point of like desperation, I think.
Yeah. So that's interesting though. I guess the reason I'm asking that, like the motivation, you had the awareness to know that it sucked. And maybe that was like, because sometimes people live their entire life that way, or at least I think so. You know what I mean? Where you're just like, I guess this is how it is. And you don't really strive for being better. So are you kind of, I'm assuming that you're like a very curious learner. And I guess you did allude to that because some people would just constantly repeat the same thing year after year and be like, this is how we do it.
Yeah, sometimes I'm a little bit like almost jealous of people that are just content because I think I'm probably not content necessarily.
Yeah.
And I don't know if like I'll ever will be. I don't have a there's no point in my mind where I'm like, oh, I'll, reach this and then I'm just gonna chill and be happy and, not do anything or, I'll be content with what I have kind of thing. So I don't know if it's a bad thing or a good thing because sometimes like, man, it's probably nice to be content with like your job that you're gonna work for 30 years and, kind of thing. But then at the same time, it's like there's not a lot of satisfaction or fulfillment out of that. And so I think that, I mean, for me, yeah, I'm, I always want to get better. It doesn't matter what I'm doing. That's how I've always been. And in the last few years, that's like in previous years, like childhood and my whole life up till the last few years, it was always in like physical aspect, like really good at my job, really, good at whatever sport I was doing or whatever it is. Like I always wanted to be the best or really good. I don't think I've ever been necessarily the best, but just like, one of the better ones at it.
Mm-hmm.
And then now it's translated into like running a business and owning a business. It's like I want to be the best I can be at that. And so I'm always trying to learn and get better and better. And I'm not like content with like, okay, I've reached this point, I'm good. It's like, no, because now I can reach this point because I'm here. So
Yeah. That's really interesting. I feel like I can relate to that. Like, I saw recently, you've maybe heard of the Iced Coffee Hour podcast. They had some psychologist or someone on, and the guy that hosts that, what's his name? Graham Stephen. He's like an original YouTube kind of financial guy. And he was like, well, how much money is enough? And he's like, I don't know, like 20 million. He's like, no, it won't be because you'll get there and then you'll have these reasons why it's not enough and whatever. And I think there is something, I know exactly what you're saying. I mean, money's an easy target because it's like it's numerical, but I know what you mean on like being constantly curious and learning. It's really good and it's really healthy. Um, I get obsessive almost with it to the point that it's counterproductive. And I actually, like, for my health, I had to start, and I'm still learning something, which I really enjoy, but it's kind of a different type of learning. It's not like learning about how to be better in business. I actually had to start reading like historical fiction and I think it's partly my personality. I'm super attentive. So if I'm reading, I'm like taking notes and it's like working a job. It's exhausting. And so I have to literally like tell myself, go and chill out, read a book. And if you miss a page because you're daydreaming, you don't have to go back and reread it all like I would with like some books. And it actually like, I feel 100% what you're saying. I'm like, I envy people that can just like are satisfied with whatever. And it's not that I want to be a bump on the log, but I've had to learn that. I'm curious if you've had to. For me, it was a form of stress. I didn't realize it was stress. I was like, oh, I just get like hyper and whatever. and it actually it made me hire poorly. I'd be like so hyper. I'd be like giving the interviewees answers instead of like watching and listening. I just be going off the wall. And then you hire people and you're firing them or they're leaving or whatever because you didn't hire properly. So I'm curious if being that you are like that kind of curious, constant learning, if you can be stressed in way like I didn't think it was stress, but I've come to learn it was. Um, can you talk about that, like balancing health with it?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. Um, just thinking about it. But yeah, I wouldn't say I'm quite as much that way like you are. It sounds like you were using it as like um I don't know, like some people go become an alcoholic and you were just reading books like mad or something instead, which is probably better. But
That
that's
could
what it
be.
sounds like the way you're describing it. Um, and I wouldn't say like I can turn it off, like we went on probably one of the best holidays we've been on this past year to Ontario, which maybe sounds weird because who goes on a good holiday to Ontario? But we did. We were going out there for a wedding, and so we booked the week before at this house right on Lake Erie, and we were just hanging out with the kids. Like we didn't, usually you're trying to do stuff or oh, we're on holidays, we got to go check out this and this and this and this while we're here, and it's like that's not what the kids like to do because our kids are young. They're all under 5, and so we just hung out at the Airbnb we had by the lake. They had a pool and just relaxed. And I read some books and stuff too because it was just relaxing. But for the most part, we just hung out and like we'd spend like 3 hours, 4 hours in the lake, and there was nothing to do. I'd let everyone know here in the company. I was like, I'm gonna be on the one meeting with you guys on Thursday, and other than that, like I'll touch in with my assistant twice during the time I'm gone and just make sure everything's good. But don't expect to hear from me if you try to get a hold of me. Like I'll respond when it's convenient, and it just so everyone expected that, so there wasn't anything coming to me, and it was just relaxing, and man, it was amazing. It felt great. And there was some stuff we were going through with the business that, if you looked at it from the outside, you'd be like, there's no way that should have been relaxing, but it was
Right.
because I'd already put that in place before I left. I've gone on other vacations where I didn't do that and didn't turn it off and say like, hey, I'm turning it off while I'm gone. And then it wasn't relaxing because the whole time your mind's running like you're talking about on something else.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I understand.
And then
So,
I've gotten shape since I started the whole thing too, which has been huge. Like I wish everyone would just get in good shape and they would realize such a difference in their life. Like it's massive. I think I lost like 30 pounds or something, 30, 40 pounds
oh
at the
wow.
absolute lowest I went. And it's like changed how you feel about yourself and think about yourself, gives you more confidence. That's like another massive thing that like anyone can
Yeah,
do it. Doesn't matter what you're doing in life, you can get yourself in good health and good shape, and man,
totally.
makes a huge difference.
So I'll let you go because we scheduled an hour. I do have one more question. You have an assistant. I'm curious about that. What provoked that to hire an assistant, and tell me a little bit about what they do.
I can tell you exactly what provoked it, and if you haven't read the book, you need to read it. It's called Buy Back Your Time
Oh
by
yeah,
Dan Martell. I'm sure you've heard of it.
I've heard of
That's
it, never read it.
yeah, that I'm on my 4th or 5th time through it now. Reason I'm going through it again is because actually my assistant is quitting here in next week. So I'm gonna just today I was like starting to do some of the stuff that she does, and I was like, man, I'm gonna need one right away or I'm gonna have no time again. But that's amazing to do that. And then they entirely run your inbox and calendar as the main two things that are gonna make the biggest difference. So like I don't even have my email app on my phone. So I don't see emails unless I go on the computer and I purposely check my email, which is usually just every morning and every afternoon. And so they have full access to your email, and they just filter all the crap out, and the ones that are important get to you, and the ones that they can respond to, they respond to. It's all laid out in that book, like exactly how to do it. And I tell everyone, like anyone that owns a business, I think it should be your first hire. If
I
I was going
see.
to start a business again, it would be 100%.
I believe that. It's funny that Dan Martell just came across my YouTube feed, and I enjoy some of his videos, and some of it was alluding to exactly what you're talking about. That's really interesting. I started doing some of it, but it sounds like I'm gonna have to read that book and look into it a little bit. Well,
Yeah, big time.
I really appreciate you taking the time